So we're going to begin by peering into the heart and mind of a woman who has a very big professional decision to make. Meet Elizabeth. All right?
Yesterday, everything changed for me. And today, nothing looks the same. My office, my wing of the building, the parking lot, the administrative staff, everything looks completely different with this opportunity clouding my vision. Everything feels different, too. But honestly, I don't think I'll ever be able to see my job or this place in the same way again. Now, I thought everything was just fine. I like my job. I like the people here. No, really, I have come to love the people here. They're all dedicated and caring people, and we work well together. We've made some amazing progress together, really making a difference in other people's lives with our work. You see, I work in one of the largest and most successful nonprofits in Tulsa. But now the office feels smaller. My role feels less significant with the potential of affecting so many more lives out there. So much more feels at stake. It's like the doors of possibility just blew the hinges off my life. You see, yesterday, my boss came into my office, shut the door, and offered me an opportunity of a lifetime. It's a promotion, a possibility that I never even knew existed. You see, the company has created a brand new vice president of global marketing position, and they want me to take it. Now, the job would require me to travel 3 times a year for a month at a time, but I'd be able to keep my home in Tulsa. The kids could stay in school here so their lives wouldn't be disrupted. I would make 50% more income plus expenses and be able to spend 3 months a year traveling the world. It feels like the universe created a job just for me. It uses all my skills. I'd be able to travel, which I so love to do. It wouldn't uproot my family. I could dust off my French, and I'd still be near my mom 9 months out of the year. I couldn't wait to tell my husband. But at the same time, I was scared to death because I knew that as soon as I told him, nothing would be the same for us either.
What do you mean you have to decide by next Friday? How can a decision like this that affects so many people's lives be made so quickly? Tell me you need more time.
I can't ask for more time. This opportunity is being presented to me first because my boss believes in me. Every other executive in the company will be chomping at the bit to get their hands on this position once they find out about it. Not to mention the hot shots outside of our company who are going to be jumping at the chance.
Maybe the single executives.
Oh, no. Honey, I thought you'd be excited. I have to say that I didn't expect you to be irate. But I would like to consider this together, maybe as the married people that we are, to see if actually it's a position that you think I could take, that it could benefit our whole family.
Irate? You want to see irate? I'm not even getting warmed up here. Now, exactly how is abandoning me and our kids going to be good for us?
Honey, I'm not interested in abandoning you. And if it feels like I'm abandoning you, then I won't go. I actually want us both to seriously consider this option to determine whether or not it's even remotely a possibility, and see whether it could even possibly be an opportunity for us both.
And we have to make the decision in 1 week?
Okay, that didn't go as I expected. Obviously, my attempt at containing my excitement about this possibility is not working. I was kind of hoping we could have a mature conversation. You see, it's really important to me not to set up a scenario where once we make a decision, one of us feels like the winner and the other feels like the loser. Because resentment on either side is going to damage our relationship, and the most important thing to me is the relationship. I better tell him that. Honey, If taking this position means I would permanently damage our relationship in some way or hurt the kids, I won't take it.
Honey, if you not taking it would mean that you're miserable, then what choice do I have? I want you to take it. But I'm worried that how can we have a real conversation about this when it seems that if I say no, I'm standing in the way of your dreams?
Well, that doesn't seem like a very fair conversation, does it? Seems more like a monologue than a conversation. Look, I knew that this was going to be a difficult decision, and I didn't expect you to agree 100% because it's clear to me that there are potential consequences no matter what we decide. For you, for me, and for our family. Now, I'm in this with you because I value your opinions, all of them. When I say that I want us to make this decision together, I mean I want us to make this decision an informed decision together. To consider this option on a level playing field, not as a monologue or a boxing match or even an edict from on high. So I need to hear your concerns, what excites you and what scares you to death. I need to know what potential roadblocks that you see along the way so that if we do make this choice, we can make this choice with all the information on the table. For example, here's something that scares me. If I were to lay all my cards out on the table, I'd want you to know that if we don't do this, if I don't take this job, that just the possibility of being able to do this has changed my life. So going back to the way things were really doesn't feel possible. We'll likely need to have another very difficult conversation about my professional life and what we both see as possible if I stay. And if we do make this decision, and we decide that I should take this job, I want you to feel like it was our decision, not mine, and that you've won something too.
There are moments in our relationships, not only with each other, but with our jobs, with our neighborhoods, with organizations that we're a part of, when something is said or done and there's no going back. It'll never be the same again. Right? We have crossed the Rubicon, as it was said of Julius Caesar when he and his army crossed the point of no return. And you and I, our church, this church, has recently crossed a threshold like that. As soon as we knew that there was an option on the table to relocate to a donated property in downtown Tulsa, that changed everything. Everything. Things will never be the same again. We are wandering in the wilderness, as it says in the Bible. If the congregation decides to move, then we'll be grieving the loss of this sacred space, right? That's filled with so much memory, so much music, so much love. Dr. John Wolfe, our minister emeritus, he dedicated all three of my children on this chancel. And he helped memorialize my daughter when she died. Her ashes are in the garden by those trees that we look out at every time we come into this sanctuary. I've performed so many weddings and memorials right here for people I love. And it's just plain beautiful in this sanctuary, isn't it? It sure is. And it's filled with so many memories and so much hope. And yet I realize that even if we decide not to move, right, that the way it was before is over. The way it has been it no longer can be. Even if we decide to do nothing, we have entered a whole new world, all of us, and it's really important that we understand that as we have these conversations. Because many people have invested an incredible amount of time and heart and soul into the possibility of moving. Many more have become excited since hearing about it and knowing that this is something that we could choose, right? Many see it as the right thing to do. So if we vote no, You see where this is going? If we vote no, not to move, then these people whose hearts are set on it and who can envision the possibility will be deeply disappointed. Certainly the energy that's been created by this moment and this possibility will be drained from our church, and everyone will need to reacclimate to figure out what is our relationship, what does this mean to me, to us, to all of us together. In other words, there's no going back. We've crossed the Rubicon. We are wandering together in the wilderness. So let's be kind to each other here in the wilderness. Let's watch each other's backs here in the wilderness. Just like a person who's being considered for a promotion will never look at his or her office or job the same way again. They'll always be considering other possibilities, what could have been, what might be. So will this church from this point forward. So knowing that we're in one of those wilderness moments as a community, as a body, in our church and with one another, Tamara and I want to spend the rest of our time together this morning sort of looking into how these sort of critical junctures in our lives, not just with the church, but with our relationships, how these critical moments, how can we stay in relationship with one another? How can we continue, no matter what happens, to make sure that our connections deepen instead of diminish? So even if you're here visiting for the first time, you don't have any idea what I'm talking about, or you're watching or listening on podcast and you have no idea or feel like you have no stake in this decision, what we're about to go through has import on all kinds of relationships in our everyday lives and decisions that we make, especially when they're with people we love.
Now, when we're in a covenanted, committed relationship, and it begins to feel like it's a win-lose situation, a win-lose conversation, that is the exact moment to broaden the focus away from the details of the decision and to focus on the relationship, to get clear about our bottom line. That feeling of win-lose can actually serve as a cue, as a reminder to pause, to take a moment, and to consider that co-created vision in the relationship and the values that you hold in common. Marlin and I both often suggest to couples in premarital counseling that when you get married, you're creating a third body, as poet Robert Bly calls it. Now, Reverend Michael Dowd, who was here as a guest minister over the summer, and his wife Connie have actually given a proper name to their relationship. I think that they said that third body in their relationship is actually called Shelley. So when Michael wants something and Connie wants something different, they actually pause and consider, what would Shelley want? When they focus on what they think Shelley wants, they're able to look beyond their own individual desires to support the relationship as a whole. So when you're feeling particularly critical, like there's only one single option that could possibly be the right option, and everyone else, how could they possibly think differently? When you're in that kind of conversation with people whom you value, pause and ask, what would Shelley want? If it feels like you've been pushed into the defensive about your own wants and needs, try asking, what do we have in common? What are our common values? What would best serve the relationship as a whole and our long-term vision of this relationship? What would serve the commitment itself? Now, in order for this to work, both people have to be emotionally present and vulnerable and willing to talk and really be open to the possibility of either choice. So let's go back to the beginning and revisit our couple who has to consider the promotion.
So let me see if I understand this. You basically are going to abandon your kids and your husband so that you can have a fancy title and use your foreign language skills. And you want me to be okay with that?
Honey, if this decision means abandoning you and the kids, I'm not interested in taking it. I've said that, and I mean it. That's a deal breaker for me, too. We agree about that. I want us to explore whether or not this could possibly work for all of us.
We know that all sounds really good, Elizabeth. It sounds wonderful, but it's pretty hard for me to believe. You know, my immediate reaction was to be shocked and to be angry because I'm so happy with the way things are. We have a good life.
We do have a good life. We do have a good life.
Well, you know, I need time. I just need time to think about it. You know, as you're talking about, I can feel a little bit of the excitement, but also a lot of fear. And I just need some time to think about it. But I do think that with some time, that I can get to the place where I can have a good conversation.
Let's shift for a minute and think about this decision. Consider the vote that's before the church, because it is a difficult conversation, to say the least. A lot is at stake. So what do we hold in common, and what are the deal breakers? What's our bottom line? Let's look at a few of the frequently asked questions.
All right, then on this church decision, does my vote even count? Does my voice even matter? Or has this decision already been made?
Well, here's what we do know. In this church, a decision about the property requires a congregational vote. No small group or even the board of trustees can make this decision alone. And more importantly, in order to make the best decision together, we need to hear everyone's voices, feelings, and opinions. What are your fears? What are you excited about? What potential roadblocks do you see? What potential ideas do you have? So we ask that you come to the soulful conversations that are happening so that we can all make this decision with the most information on the table about how it will affect the church now and in the future.
Okay, so let me give voice to this one.
Okay?
How big are we trying to get anyway? Because I don't think bigger is necessarily better.
Well, if this decision is about getting bigger for the sake of getting bigger, then I'm not for it either, and neither is our senior minister. There's enough of that kind of thinking in churches and businesses and out on the world that bigger is always better.
Right.
But this decision cannot be about that, or we're doing it for the wrong reasons. However, if making room for growth is truly about expanding our vision, about making room for people who want and who need this ministry, this love beyond belief that we have to offer, well, I'm willing to do a lot to make that happen. Now, I know how much value and meaning and hope that this church has added to my life and to my family. And I want that for others too. So if we can grow in ways that allow us to maintain or even increase the quality of our experience here at this church, then I want to take the risk.
You know, when we're in difficult conversations with people in our lives, conversations that matter when the stakes are high, we need to stretch to find out what we have in common and what we agree on. Do you see how good Tamara or Elizabeth is at doing that, at finding those areas where we agree? And she continues to point out that we really agree on the big things. We agree on our values and our vision. So by reminding ourselves what we have in common helps us to avoid arguing over the wrong things. People spend a lot of time in their relationships arguing over the wrong things, over and over the small things, or arguing over things that don't really matter, and there's something much bigger and much more at stake underneath. So when we get polarized, if we can find that commonality first, then there's room for us to begin to have a real conversation, room to express our fears and our anxieties, and also room to hear each other's good ideas.
So let's go back again, one more time, back to our couple who's making their tough decision about the promotion.
What do you mean we have to decide by next Friday? Right? How in the world can we make such a decision that affects so many people's lives in such a short period of time?
I know. I know, it's quick. It's quick for me too. I've had one extra day to digest this information, so my shock is starting to wear off a little bit. Now, I know we won't always move through our feelings on big decisions at exactly the same pace, and I've even had a bit of a head start. But we've made other important decisions in a short time frame in our lives. Remember when we bought this house? We had to decide just in 2 days because others were interested, and that was huge.
That's true. A lot of very important decisions that we made have had to be made quickly, and we have made them, and they've been good decisions. But what if we say yes to this and we're wrong, and we realize afterward that we've made a bad decision?
If I say yes to this job, and after a year we realize that the cost of the family is too high, then we go to plan B. I would be making 50% more money. So if we saved that increase and reevaluated in a year, I could quit and we'd have 6 months of salary saved up for us as a cushion for me to find another job.
What about the church decision, though? Do we have enough time to make this decision? Do we have a plan B?
We need to decide in just a few months, or we're going to lose our option on the property, and that does seem fast. The good news is that we've had a team of qualified church members looking into this possibility from the minute that it became available. Now, we've made other decisions in the life of this church quickly. Did you know that when a church calls a senior minister like John Wolfe or that other guy, what's his name, Marvin? Marlin, that we only have 1 week to decide?
Yeah, I know, and that's really fast, too. Our church has made some good decisions.
In a week.
But what happens if we decide yes and then we can't raise the money that we need to build a church, or the development in the East Village doesn't happen?
Well, that's actually the great thing about this option, because even if we vote to take the option, we have this church and the property here until the new building is completed. Now, it could take up to 2 years to raise the money, and even another year or two to draw up the architectural plans. But during those 4 or more years, we will be right here. And we'll know more. We'll be more clear about the climate. In worst case scenario, if the economy crashes and we can't raise enough money, or the East Village doesn't develop, or the park doesn't go in, then we could decide to stay here.
Oh, well, that eases some of the pressure for me. I can see now that we have a plan B in case of we find out that this move is not going to help us to be the church we want to be, to achieve the goals that we have for our congregation and our purpose, and that we're not going to end up being stuck.
Well, that's right, but even more important than having a plan B, the main question that we actually need to be considering is, on what are we going to base this decision? What is our common vision? On what grounds do we make a decision this big? The big question is, which of the options in front of us do we believe is most likely to help us achieve our vision for the church by 2021, when the church turns 100 years old? Which one of these decisions also helps to support our values and our covenant?
So our vision states that we want to be an embodiment and a celebration of the world as we hope it will someday become. We want to be in relationships in such a way that we hope that the whole world someday will be able to be in relationship. We want to be the change in here that we hope to see out in the world. We can't change the whole world, but we can change how we are in this church and how we are with each other. And we can be a model of a different kind of community. And so that's what our vision says. And it says that to be such a model, it means that we need to create a congregation here in this church and in our sanctuary. And the vision reads like this: our sanctuary in 2021 will be bursting with people from a diversity of theologies and philosophies, and people of many ethnicities, cultures, colors, classes, abilities, generations, sexual orientations, and political persuasions, all dwelling together in peace, seeking the truth in love, and helping one another. So the question is, the real question is, which of the options before us for our future do we think will most likely allow us to achieve our vision of becoming a truly multicultural, multi-generational church community over the next 10 years?
I don't know if you've noticed, but we have not taken on an easy task.
No, we haven't.
It's not only multicultural, multi-generational, it's multifaceted and multi-different and difficult.
You can say that again.
Our vision, though, just so you know, was adopted in a congregational meeting in 2010. It came out of a lot of conversations in this congregation over the course of a year. And at homecoming last year, over 800 of our members signed on.
So we might have different ideas about what we think is best regarding these decisions around our master plans. But what we have in common is our vision and our values. And so if we can decide which of our options is most likely to lead to our vision and that is in accord with our values, then we're having the right conversation.
You know, it's the same actually in a relationship. When there's a difference of opinion or a different decision that needs to be made, the best thing to do is to return to the common vision of the future that the couple co-created, to revisit those core values that the couples has in common, and to see whether or not there's room within them to make a choice. I often tell couples that they need to be each other's biggest fans, like a cheerleader, helping the other person to be the best individual that they can be while also supporting the relationship. I remind them that they are on the same team, not opposing teams. So making specific choices about how to best support the vision can still be difficult. But all in all, if we are vulnerable and honest and open, if we stay at the table and stay in the conversation, the right decision will come. And when it does come, if we've risked putting ourselves out there and feeling heard, we will be blessed and feel blessed no matter what the outcome is, with both parties feeling like they've won something because we have this person on our team, because we have been on this journey together.
So I just feel so incredibly blessed to be part of a church that has such a powerful vision. Right, 2021 is also the 100th anniversary of the race riot in this country, which ripped people apart, especially across race in this city. And we're talking about on the 100th anniversary becoming a church that's bringing people together across all kinds of differences, being a true source of healing and hope in this city. And that's what's at stake. And I'm also glad to be part of a church where we can have this conversation together, where we can really share our feelings, really not have to hide or duck, but say how we feel, say what we think, and ultimately stay focused on what we're trying to be and who we're trying to become, and to make a serious difference in the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Me too. Me too. I am so incredibly grateful to be a part of this church. It's been clear to me from day one that this church dreams big. And it demands a lot of its congregation, and it demands a lot of its ministry. And it has made me a better minister than I ever thought even possible in my lifetime. And I'm so glad to have been and to continue to be a part of seeing our vision come to fruition.
And we are deeply grateful that you are part of this congregation as well. You know, if I'm going to be out in the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights, or 40 years, I'm glad to be on this journey with you.
Amen.
Amen.